Hey folks, I don't know where we're at, number 10, number 11, somewhere in there, but this is another one of those continuing videos of our street rod project. I've got the hull down to pretty well empty other than the weather stripping. I hate pulling weather stripping off and throwing it on the shelf because then it becomes deformed, and unless you're replacing it with new, it's often very hard to get it to go back into place. So I typically do leave my weather stripping in place until I'm ready to paint the car, unless I have to move it because of welding or stuff like that. It's just one of the tricks I've learned over the years. If you take this stuff up and ball it up and throw it on a shelf, it'll never go back onto the car. You'll have a nightmare of a time getting it to seal and stuff like that. Sometimes I'll even actually just pull back the edges and tape it on the car, even if I'm changing color. Because some of these kits are either unavailable or stupidly expensive. So the weather stripping is one of the things that I do leave in place. I also will usually leave the windshield in place if they're a glue-in windshield. Now in a car like this, the nice thing is it's not that expensive to buy a new windshield. If I end up with damage to it. Now in this particular case, this one does have a rock chip in it and a small crack already anyways. So it's not a big deal if I end up with some pitting. But if you've got a rare car like a 1950s car that they don't make the windshield for anymore, it's worth removing the windshield before you do your work. I had a 60s Oldsmobile that I did years ago, and even with duct taping over the windshield and putting fiberglass sheets on it and stuff like that, I still ended up with pocks and pits in that windshield. And that windshield was a $2,000 piece of glass. Now on something like this, it's probably a $300 windshield is all, because it's a really common car. So not a big deal on this, and it needed to be replaced anyways. But you can still save yourself a lot of effort if the windshield is savable, to save the windshield or cover it up at least. So once you get the car able to be test driven, you've still got a windshield in it for your test drives, and then pull the windshield before you do your paint job. But anyways, like I said, you strip the car down to an empty hull as your next step in building something like this. Then eventually we'll cut the floors out of it and move the firewall and move the rear wheel wells and all that stuff. But as I said in the earlier video, save everything until you're ready to toss it because you've finished the project, because you never know what you're going to need. If you decide to use the stock stereo or stock speakers or steering column and you threw it away early in the project, now you're spending money that you didn't need to spend because you didn't save it. And with that, as you're saving everything, make sure that stuff is sitting fairly stable and not stacked too high as you're saving stuff. Because like this dash, it's one of the heavy, bulky pieces. It'll be the first one to go on the shelf. And then you throw a bunch of other stuff on top of it over the course of time, and then it sits there for a year or two. If that dash twists by 1 inch, getting that back into the car later on is going to be a nightmare. So don't stack stuff on it, and try to make sure everything is sitting level and well supported. Because otherwise, if you do go to use it and it's wrecked, now you've got a different disappointment. But as you see, disassembling the car kind of makes a mess out of everything. But these fenders and nose and everything else is going to go on another car that I'm building eventually. The front suspension will be going on a different street rod. So in our case, everything pretty well is going to be recycled into another project. Now we get to go after this thing with a chainsaw. Actually a 040 disc on a grinder and a Sawzall is what I use for disassembling this. And we'll get rid of the rest of what we don't need, and then we can start building a car. Thanks for watching.